Hello. Hi everyone. Hello, welcome. I'm Joanna Penn and this is Orna from the Alliance of Independent Authors, and obviously I am too, and we're here today for our monthly ALLi chat. And we're doing Q&A and we answer all your questions. We have a load that were entered on the questionnaire thing, but we'll also answer questions live. So if you're here with us live, you are welcome to enter questions in the chat Q&A thing, or put things in the Facebook private group, and I'll just check that as we're going. So how are you, Orna?
Yes, I'm pretty good, except that BT decided, my little internet box decided to give up on me today, so I've spent most of the day running around trying to find alternative internet sources. All good, yeah, you?
Yeah, so we always like to do a little bit of an update. So my update is I've had a pretty massive week. I had a book launch, yay!
Woohoo!
Yeah, so How to Make a Living with Your Writing is out now, and it was actually so fast. I uploaded the book to Amazon, Kobo, iBooks, Drafter Digital, and literally within an hour it was everywhere. It was the fastest it's ever been, and that was quite shocking because you kind of need a little bit of time to.
Do you mean in terms of you getting to do it, you're now just so much quicker at doing it, or you mean so fast to be picked up?
Yeah, I'm quicker, but also the services are quicker. It used to be like 4 hours to 24 hours. Now it was like bam. It was amazing. So that was cool. I've also had 2 audiobook releases this week, so that's another big deal. And I'm editing Deviance, my next novel. So I feel like loads of stuff going on at the moment. Quite busy, aren't we all?
Yes, Joanna, I think 2 audiobooks and a launch and editing another book counts as busy.
And how about you? What's going on with Her Secret Rose?
Well, I'm just seeing proofs when I close my eyes and go to sleep at night. I'm in proofing, just final proofs of the proofs, as it were, and because it's a very special print edition. Really, really kind of carefully going through it all. And it's not my favorite part of the process, I have to say. Tidy, neat and meticulous stuff is not what I do best, but yeah, it's part of the job. So then that will be that, and really looking forward to Sligo. There's some great people coming along for the launch, and great people just attending the summer school generally, and it's going to be a really highlight for me of the whole year. So so all good, really.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, these parts, we all have to do these more difficult parts. There are hard parts of every job, and this is, this type of proofing is difficult. And we have a question about that, but I'll come back to that later. First up, you had some Alliance updates as well, didn't you?
Well, yeah, we're always kind of doing things here, and sometimes it's very visible what's going on, and then sometimes we're kind of regrouping in the background, and that's the kind of phase we're in at the moment. We have amassed an enormous amount of information from all our members since we started, and one of the things that we're kind of aware of ourselves and that we get feedback on is that the information is great but not always easy to extract. So we're working on the information flow and also dividing up our interaction into people who are just beginning and setting out, for different stages of the author journey, as it were, because it's very clear that the needs are actually strikingly different at different phases. So that's a challenge, and we're all, Jay and Debbie and myself and Andrew now, who's our new partner manager, and who's going to be taking up the role that Jim Mateo used to play, our watchdog of services and so on. Also working hard on this and our directory of services. So just essentially streamlining everything, and our aim is to make it all insanely useful so that you can just kind of, when you need something, you know exactly where to go and how to find it. So that's what we're at right now.
I must say I'm thinking about the same for the Creative Pen. I'm coming up to 6 years with that site this year, and I have thousands of articles and audio and videos. And so I'm really looking at this redesign too. So I think that's good for everybody to know. It's like you have to get started on anything, I think, and then you will update things over time, and you will have to redesign things. You will put new covers on things. You will re-release things. That's just the way it goes. You like with your proofing, I know it will be almost perfect, but you know, that one typo will make it a very valuable first edition that I will have a copy of.
Okay,
so leave one in, and then you can say it was deliberate. Anyway, we've got some updates, publishing news updates this month. It's been a pretty big month for publishing update news. So the big Amazon pays per page read freak out that everybody's had. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I think it's so interesting, and I think it's a way in which Amazon changes how things happen, and well, technology also, of course, which is primarily what this is about. We can do this now. So, I mean, the publishing industry in the past has always just put out books very much based on sort of gut feelings and you know, as to what people wanted, and also editors, you know, what they felt was they liked to read to some degree, and also what would sell. So, and it's all been it's been very much a touchy-feely kind of business. And some would say, was it a business at all? In you know, as you would say about a lot of creative enterprises now, it's very, very different. And this is, I think, another very significant step forward in this change in which what we know about how our readers read. And, you know, there's a lot of resistance to this, but essentially, if we're not here for our readers, who are we here for? So, you know, knowing when a reader stops reading, and knowing, you know, who is read as opposed to who is sold. So, for example, look at all those celebrity books that get bought because they're by a celebrity. How many of them are actually read? Whereas a book by an unknown, that is absolutely fabulous, you know. So I actually think it's a good thing. What do you think?
Yeah, well, although we've got to reiterate, it is only KDP Select. For now, but even if it's not for now, it will still only be Amazon. Maybe other sites will change over time. I must say, you know, it doesn't worry me either. And Hugh Howey just had a really great post on it today, which is the 30th of June, if people want to go and look. It doesn't worry me either. I mean, it's kind of like, I already do this. It's like I download a sample, and if I don't finish the sample, I delete the sample and I don't read the book. If I finish the sample, as in I've clicked through the pages of the sample and then I like it, I will buy the book and I will finish that book. So I now only read books that I finish, and I only read books I like because I use the sample. So to me, it's still the most important thing is hooking people in that sample, and becoming an author name or brand, if you want to use that word, that people actually want to, you know, buy your next book with, and that people like your voice enough to trust you to buy the book, whether it's per, you know, per page read. I really do think that subscription models are a big deal. Like we've just seen today the launch of Apple Music, another streaming service, obviously going up against Spotify. That the music industry is ahead of us, and Draft2Digital, another announcement in the publishing sector. Draft2Digital are now distributing to Oyster as well as Scribd. So those of you with Draft2Digital can now use both of those subscription services. Or obviously if you're not in KDP Select, because you have to be non-exclusive. So I'm not exclusive, and I use those subscription services. But no, I think the main message to everybody is, if you, as you said, if you're writing stuff that you enjoy, that your readers enjoy, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, and I think a lot of resistance to a lot of these developments is because it's such a hard job. You know, it is really difficult to write books that consistently entertain or inspire or amuse or educate or whatever it is your thing is enough to hook a reader away from all the other things they could be doing with their lives and all the other writers, and keep them there in your book and make them want to stay, you know, enough to read to the end of your sample, enough to read to the end of that book, enough to come back and buy another book. And it's not something that happens overnight. And I think those people who thought that self-publishing was going to be sort of a pill for all ills, and solve all the things that were perceived as being wrong with the trade publishing industry, are now waking up to the fact that it isn't like that at all. And maybe there's a little howl of pain at the moment, but I think, you know, these are good things, and essentially the writer who can reach their readers gets the rewards. So, you know, what is wrong with that?
Yeah, all good. And of course it weeds out the people who are just trying to game the system and aren't really loving what we do. And those of us who love what we do, we're just going to carry on anyway. So, you know, that's the way it goes. No one said it was easy. The other update just on publishing is Apple iBooks now are doing pre-orders with metadata only up to a year in advance. So you don't even need to load a book file. You can just use a title and a cover. You don't even have to have a cover. You can change the title. You know, basically you can put up a holding page on iBooks, so that if you've got a series and you know you're going to release another 2 books in the next year, you can put those up for pre-order, and you know, so people, when they finish one, they can just buy the next one. And pretty much all the sites now, I think, have series linking. You know, Amazon's changed it now, so it says, you know, buy the rest in the series, which is awesome. So, you know, again, writing series and having pre-orders in a series is really super good thing.
And Smashwords too, who have facilitated pre-orders for some time, are now facilitating assetless pre-orders too. I think that's the term that is most people are using now, assetless pre-order. So well worth looking into pre-orders for those of you who haven't. And people often say, well, why not just wait till the book comes out? The point of a pre-order is that you get a lot of juice behind your book on the day that it comes out, so that you're guiding your fans towards it and helping them to know that it's coming, and so that when the book actually launches on the day, it gets a little whoosh up in more than it would if you just kind of put it out and start making noise about it at that point. So even if you only have one book, it's worth doing the pre-order.
Well, and also it's so you can capture the sale when they've just finished the last book, because they might not have signed up for your email list, and you might have just lost that customer if it's going to be another 6 months before you put a book out. So that's another reason. Obviously that year is only Apple iBooks and I think Kobo. Amazon's still like a month or something. Or is it 3 months? 3 months. Yeah. Okay, so let's get on with the questions. So we have, while you're having proofing nightmares, we have a question from Alison. When hiring a proofreader, is it best to engage them for 2 sets of proofreads, digital and print, or just digital? I did my own proofreading, never again, and I spotted many more proofing errors once the book was formatted than when I did an ebook form. So question is, do we get double proofreading, one for ebook and one for print?
Not really one for print. Well, this is how I do it, is I proof the print. If I'm doing a print version, proof from the print version. And that proofing should carry over onto both. So, but I do think it can be, well, first of all, don't do your own proofing. It's not possible. It's simply not possible to proof your own work. So with those extra errors that you spotted in the print version, you're absolutely right. There's something about seeing it in hard copy printed that makes errors more obvious. But still, I can guarantee you that there were lots of errors that you didn't see, because our own writing, our eyes just glide over it. We don't see, you know, it's all in what you don't know, you don't know. So always get somebody else to do your proofing. And I think it can be well worthwhile getting a second proofing if you can afford that. But you should proof the text once thoroughly and really well, you know, so get a professional proofreader, somebody who has qualifications and experience and who has done what you know to be good books. And it's very easy to research those things now. There was a time that it was quite difficult to to know who had proofed a book or who had edited a book. But now, I think since authors have become just so much more active, they're really keen to highlight their partners and the people who have helped them to make their book as good as it is. So it's easy to get that information. Now we have a search engine on the Alliance website which you can look for. All of these people have been vetted and are good at what they do. You can ask on the forum for recommendations and ask around generally people in your genre. So one good proofing and then format into the different formats that you're going to be using, be it Mobi, EPUB, print, whatever.
Yeah, and what I do is I get the ebook out first for this reason. So I pay a professional proofreader on the digital version, but then inevitably, and that's after I already had like two professional edits, and then I've done it too. There will always be something else. So I put the ebook out first and rely on sorry, that's my husband. I rely on the wonderful early readers that I have to send me, and they will always find it. You know, in the first couple of days, I will get a couple of emails from regular readers who say, here's the last 3 things, and then I fix up the ebook, and then I do the print book. So I never get the print book formatted until like a week after I put the ebook out, because inevitably you'll get an email and you'll be really pissed off. So okay, that answers formatting. Okay, an ISBN question. So
everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite. Sandra says, as a self-publisher, should I purchase my ISBNs directly from Bowker? I see there are other sites offering ISBNs for less money. For example, a website, Publisher Services, lists official US ISBN agency channel partner and offers the ISBNs plus barcode for cheaper. Is this legitimate? And then I'll ask the other question. So,
okay. Well, in terms of the first question, should I or shouldn't I? This is going to be one of those confusing situations where you'll get different advice from Joanna and myself. So we agree on lots of things, but there are some things we don't. I definitely think you should purchase your own ISBNs, and I definitely think you should purchase them from the established seller in your area, in your territory. So for some people, if you live in France, you don't need an ISBN, you get your ISBNs free. But if you live in the US, you should purchase your ISBNs from Bowker. It's not a huge expense over the life of a book. And because this is my reasoning, because the publishing industry is very much in a state of flux, the only identifier that ties you as a publisher of record to that book is the ISBN. If a library wanted to stock it, if a bookstore wanted to stock it, etc., it establishes you as the publisher of record. The other thing is, I don't know the company you've just listed. But as I said, I think you should purchase your ISBNs from the official seller. Yeah.
And then Sandra says, are there any book cover designers who can? Okay. So are there any book cover designers who can format the color design for a modest book who do not charge lots of dollars to do so? I think in general, there are lots of designers on the Alliance site. I have a whole list of designers at thecreativepenn.com/book cover design. But in the end, the amount of money you pay is going to be dependent on a whole load of things. As in, whether, you can make your own cover. I've got a tutorial on how to make a cover in MS Word that Derek Murphy did from Creative Indie. You can do it yourself on canva.com. There are lots of ways you can do it cheaply, but the question is, what do you want? And the best thing is to check out different designers, see what you like, look at books you like, and find out who did the design. You really get to choose the amount of money you spend on a cover. So we can't recommend a specific person for your situation. Like people ask me all the time, can I recommend an editor? It's like dating. You just can't. You can say, look, here's a pool that you can go check, but you have to make these decisions. And it's, I choose a different a whole different things than Orna does. And, you know, and we think, as we just said, quite similarly on many things, but we all have to make these decisions. So be empowered to make your own decision about editors, you know, proofreaders, cover designers. And if you make a mistake, you can change it, you know, like I retitled, rebranded, recovered. That is life.
I think there's an issue here around budgeting for a book, and I think perhaps, I'm not sure, that question might be referring to interior design as well as cover. I'm not 100% sure about that, but one way or the other, the advice holds. Publishing a book means it's like each one is like a small business in and of itself. So you have to have a budget for it, and obviously and understandably, a lot of authors, their budget is quite low, but you really need to think about that. You need to think about a business concept, and you can read all about it in Joanna's other book, Business for Authors, called return on investment. So, for example, I regularly hear from members that a certain marketing service is too expensive, but this marketing service will almost always return you as much money as you have paid, plus some more. So that's not expensive. That's not half as expensive as a cheap service that doesn't sell any books at all. That's cost you money. The other one has gained you money. So it's important to think about return on investment, and that should be your guiding principle rather than how cheap is it. And when it comes to an illustrated book, if that's what you're talking about, and indeed, even if it isn't an illustrated book, if we're just talking about straight text, the design of your book is going to be a huge factor in its sales and in its appeal to readers. So if you skimp on design and you end up with a not very good design, that's actually a waste of money, more than paying more money, but actually ending up with a good design that attracts readers. And it also depends on which book it is. So for example, this book that I'm working on at the moment, Secret Rose Project, that is requiring a whole level of cost and commitment, much, much more than I normally put into a novel because of the whole story behind that book. Similarly, if it's a book that needs a lot of interior design, if it's a picture book or a book for children or illustrated for some other reason, then you're going to have to realistically put a budget behind that. Otherwise, wait. Don't put it out there as cheaply as you possibly can, without thinking through exactly what it is you're trying to achieve.
And Sandra had a follow-up question. What publisher would you recommend to do a self-published non-fiction book that has both black and white and colour pages? Create Space only does one or the other. I would also, when I hear about it sounds like, so it's a non-fiction book with both colour and black and white pages. Maybe those colour things, I've had questions at live events, are maps or pit photographs that you think are very important, or graphics. My big thing with this is don't use them, is put them on your website. You use a URL in your book, say there is a diagram of this, or you can see the photos here, and use a URL that directs people to your website. Also do this on ebooks. On ebooks, you do it because your royalty rate will also have the delivery cost deducted. Generally, it's tiny. It's like 0.2 cents or something. But if you have a big file, your delivery cost will be massive, and that will be images. Same with printing. If you put all these images in your print book will be very expensive. And actually, very rarely do these things add to the narrative of, say, a non-fiction book. If it's a photography book, sure, go ahead. But if it is just any kind, my opinion is really, I bet you don't need these diagrams, and the cost of them will outweigh the benefits, in my opinion. But I presume if you want to go ahead, Ingram Spark would be the place to go.
Yeah, for POD, or else you need to get a printer who can cover those costs if you're looking to sell directly. So again, that depends on what way you want to distribute the book, and who the reader is and how you're going to reach the reader. So lots of decisions to make around that. If you were trade publishing this book, you would find that a publisher would not probably include the illustrations unless they were absolutely necessary. And again, it's going to send the cost of the book in terms of purchasing it up as well. So yeah, very often, well, sometimes it is necessary, absolutely. Only you can know for sure. But certainly think about some of the issues that are being raised here.
We've got a whole load more questions on print, and just an overall general point. When you're doing your first book, the print book does become sort of a talisman of your work. Like, I absolutely believe you should do a print book as to show, you know, I made this, it's great. But the reality is that indies make their money on ebooks. You know, 99% of indies will be making the majority of their money with ebooks. So be really careful with how much you're investing in this whole print process if it's your first book, because your writing will change, you will change. As I said, you'll find issues in it. So, you know, it may be better to wait until you've got a couple of books before going really hard into all these complicated print issues. I mean, I certainly still, I'm not as focused on print as Orna is, for example. I use CreateSpace. I use their free ISBNs, as in I don't have my own ISBN. I use print mainly as marketing material. You know, that's how I run my business. So just wanted to remind people of where we make our money versus us making ourselves happy with a print version, which is still important. But, you know, just remember
no,
that.
I think it's well worth making that point. And I do love print in a way that Joanna doesn't. But I also completely recognise that's not how I make my income from writing. And it's not how, as you said, it's not even 80-20, you know, the usual sort of Pareto thing. It is 99% of indies make 99% of their money from ebooks. And as Joanna says, wait until you are a more experienced publisher before you go into print, because print is harder, much harder to get right and for it to look good. There are all sorts of intangibles and subtle things with print. I'm not sure that I've yet produced a print book that I absolutely love. But the other thing is, I'd say wait, because print is going to get easier for indies in a couple of years, I predict. You know, services are really understanding now that ebooks and print books are going to coexist very happily together, but they also understand that the situation that we have at the moment, where POD is produces a significantly more expensive book, where the discounts in bookstores don't work for indies, and all of these things mitigate against us ever being able to sell enough print books to make any sort of a return on it, unless, of course, we've got a back of the room situation with speaker or whatever. But I'm speaking of the average indie. Hold on, you know, and become a good publisher. And that means, you know, get yourself to a position where you can actually produce really good text, words. The words are the magic, really, not the format. And so become a good digital publisher before you leap into becoming a good print publisher, before you leap into becoming a good audio publisher, one thing at a time. And if you're going to press down on one, make it ebooks to start, for sure.
Yeah. And while we're still on that, Chris mentioned that will there be a new offer for ALLi members with Ingram Spark?
There still is, Chris. That one that was sort of open to the world there briefly in May is over. But if you just go to the self-publishing advice blog and click on the Ingram Spark link, you'll be taken to the ALLi code, which will give you a good discount. And they've removed setup costs for ALLi members as well. So that never went away. That always coexisted with the other one.
And another print question. We have so many tonight. David says, I'm UK based, just published my first book, Girl on the Gangway, and with CreateSpace. I want to review it here. However, it appears the only way I can get review copies is to have them shipped from the US. Can I get it printed in Europe with or without CreateSpace? David, so we have a little workaround. So one, obviously, if you want to get lots, you could do a small print run with a printer. But what I do, and what many others do with this situation, if you're on Amazon Prime, you get free shipping anywhere in the country. So basically what I do is I normally order one directly on Amazon and send it straight to the reviewer. So I don't even have it sent to me and then me send it to the reviewer. I just send it straight there. So you get free shipping, and then obviously you get the royalty, and you get the sale, as in you get the ranking extra type of stuff. So to me, you probably end up breaking even though you don't make any money. It's a review copy, so it's marketing. So that's basically what I do. Amazon Prime is incredibly useful for free shipping.
And so say all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. JJ Toner asks, what is Google Play? Should I put my books there or not? JJ, we talked about Google Play last month. My big thing with Google Play is when Draft a Digital partner or Smashwords partner with them, that's when it will be the time to jump in. I know a lot of people do make good money on Google Play, but I've looked at it and just gone, bleh. So wait.
We're actually talking to Google Play right now, and they have, it's not possible to put your books up on Google Play at the moment, JJ. They kind of withdrawn that facility because they know they weren't kind of getting it right, and they are inviting sort of a number of people to work with them and help them to get the offer right. So again, hold off a little while. I think you'll see big improvements in Google Play within the next number of months.
Veronica says, now I've published my first book, I am getting contacted by book promoters who promise to publicize my book for a fee. How can I tell which are effective and which are not? I love this. If they're contacting you, they're probably not effective. that would be one big point. I
think what's happening, what I see happening a lot now, if you get a book club or one of the marketing services that are successful, there are a lot of people who are trying to build business on the back of those and writing to people straight afterwards saying, we can promote blah, blah, blah. The thing about, you mentioned two particular providers in your question, and rather than sort of saying a particular provider, what I'd like to say is that it's the same as choosing a designer, choosing an editor, what Joanna was talking about earlier. You've got to choose your marketing service very carefully in terms of, again, knowing who you're trying to reach, why you're trying to reach them, and so on. So I think almost all indies are agreed that BookBub is worth the money it costs if you can get one. Not everybody can get one. Though we have an opinion piece coming on the blog shortly from Celie James, who's looking closely at BookBub and who has a fairly strong opinion that it's a short-term gain, but perhaps a long-term cost. So I'm interested to hear what he's got to say on that. But certainly most of our members want to get a BookBub and try to get a BookBub. So that's one that we can kind of say it works in most situations if you're prepared to reduce your book significantly in terms of price and so on. Then when it comes to sort of smaller operations, like some of the people that you asked about in your question, the answer there is it depends. It depends on your reader, who you're trying, method through which you're going to use them. So, for example, Books Go Social is mentioned, and that Lawrence O'Brien, member, and Lawrence runs a number of different sorts of initiatives that work for books, but he will be the first to say that they don't work for all books, and will also use Twitter, for example, to promote your book. Then you need to be an active Twitter user with a presence there already. So it's very rarely a matter of just handing over money the books sell. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, if it was a case of just doing that, then that's what would happen, and every book would be a bestseller. It's definitely more complicated. And then again, this is a long-term game, and I am absolutely as guilty as anybody for highly pimping my first book, because you're so invested in that first book, it becomes like everything. But I've certainly learned by writing more books that the more books you have, the less you're actually worried about any individual book. So it becomes much easier to promote books when you have more books, just in so many ways. So yeah, and I used to think, oh, those people who advise you just to write more books, they're so smug. But I think it really is true, and you do kind of realize that over time. You know, certainly for fiction, the best marketing is more books.
Yeah, and non-fiction really too. The number of members who have said it used to drive me crazy when you said write more books, and now say as soon as I got to book 3, book 3 is a leap. Book 5 tends to be a leap. So hang on in there, keep writing. Recognize that, you know, writing and reaching out to readers is the core of your marketing efforts, really, and that anything else that you do is ancillary to that. So if you're actually thinking about, should I do this marketing, so that will be easier than having to write and reach out to readers in more, you know, through content marketing, say, or more sort of reader focused ways, then probably need to adjust your thinking, get the core right first, and then you can add in, you can try, you can experiment. I know a number of people now are looking at Facebook ads and Google ads and Amazon ads indeed, and giveaways on Goodreads and Amazon also. So there are lots of things you can add in, but they're all extras. The core must be the writing and how you reach your reader, who your reader is, identifying your reader, understanding what you're offering them and why they should spend money on your book.
And that's the fun part too.
Yes.
So okay, talking of, David put his question twice about review copy, so we definitely need to make sure David hears this recording. JJ has another question about Facebook ads. Toying with the idea of using Facebook ads for collecting email subscribers and promoting directly. I've been through Mark Dawson's three free videos and probably have enough information to try this, but it's scary. I have a number of questions. You've given me some questions, given us some questions, JJ. Now, I have done Mark's course. I know Mark, I've been through his video series. We cannot answer these questions, and I suggest that you actually email Mark. In Mark's free videos are at selfpublishingformula.com, even though it's not about a self-publishing formula, it's about Facebook ads. Bless him, he almost bit off too much that he could chew. But if you do the free videos, you can get access to Mark's Facebook group, and in the group you can ask those questions. And this kind of, again, this is coming back to investment and what is expensive. If you want to use something like Facebook ads, you can seriously lose your shirt and spend a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. I have tried them, I know. So I think, again, you're spending, if you want to do, like, specialize in Facebook ads, like, don't just jump on it because it's the latest thing and everyone's talking about it, which they are right now. It's just going nuts. But only if you are willing to spend the time and actually really invest your money and your time in learning how to use Facebook ads, then go ahead and join the course or ask those questions in the Facebook group. If you are somebody who is already overwhelmed with all these different marketing opportunities, then just leave this for a while. There is no rush. Facebook is not going away. You know, Twitter started advertising, Pinterest has started advertising. There are new opportunities every single day. And I think it's just like, take a step back and think about your strategy. But then if you do decide, and JJ, if you do want to do this, I suggest you actually, you know, get in that Facebook group and ask those questions to people who are experts on Facebook marketing, which neither Orna and I are. Is that about right, Orna?
That's absolutely right. I think when it comes to that sort of marketing thing, that you are probably better off to hire, because anything technologically based like that, unless you love it and you know, you absolutely love it, I absolutely don't. And you know, you've got to think about, here's the time that I'm going to spend doing that, essentially doing the job of being a publisher. I mean, what I'm seeing, when you decide to self-publish, you essentially become a publisher, and there is no publisher in the world that kind of sits and does it all themselves. They have departments and they have people who are allocated to specific tasks, and it definitely breaks down in that way. You can't do it all. You simply can't. And I suppose, again, without harping on and in the same point, to become a good self-publisher, first of all, you've got to understand who your reader is. And so many people are trying out marketing techniques, as you say, the latest craze, whatever comes along. Jump on that thinking it's going to be a magic bullet, a magic pill, and it isn't. Until you've done that core work, don't do anything else. When you've done that, then you can experiment, because then when you've done that core work, you'll have some money to invest, you have some money to play with. Until you've done that core work, forget about it all, let it pan out. There'll always be the latest course, and there'll always be the latest way to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, that, like I said earlier, I'm looking at, and you're looking at the ALLi strategy and how the site is, and I'm looking at my site, the Creative Pen and JF Pen, and what is the reader's journey and the person's journey through your website or through your book series. I mean, I set up some Facebook ads, and then, you know, we've turned them off because I realized that I'm wasting money because I haven't got my flow right. So people arrive on the Creative Pen, some of them sign up, but I lose a lot of people in the process because it's not set up right. And with my fiction, it's better to maximize the flow with all the links in the book, so that, you know, and then once it's all optimized, then send traffic to that. And that's certainly what I'm planning to do, is like hold off and streamline everything so that when you do pay for the traffic, whether it's a BookBub, whether it's Facebook, whether it's anything, guest posting, podcasting, you're then sending the traffic into a very well designed funnel as such. Otherwise, you put some money in and you're losing it on the way down, and then you might lose money, I suppose. So this is a big deal for all of us. This is running a professional business at a pretty high level, actually, which is why many indies are not making this work as a business and don't want to, you know, potentially. But I had this conversation with someone recently, and, you know, they were asking me about all this marketing stuff, and then I came back to you, so what is your definition of success? And, you know, she said, oh, well, I just want to hold a book in my hand and say I wrote this. Well, and so I said, well, why are you bothering with all that marketing effort? Why are you bothering with worrying about all this stuff when you just want to hold your book in your hand? That you can do without having to go so crazy. So yeah, everybody just take a breath and think about, you know, at this halfway mark through the year, what do you want to achieve in the next 6 months? Because we're 30th of June today, so we are right in the middle of the year. What have you achieved so far for the year, and what are you going to achieve before Christmas? Because now we're heading to Christmas now.
Oh, stop! Somebody stop her.
I mean, you know, I'm a chronic goal setter, so I'm always reviewing my goals for the year. But it's also time to reassess. So, for example, one of my goals this year was to narrate other people's audiobooks. Do you remember me saying this at the beginning of the year?
Yes. I remember saying, why?
Yeah, well, because I thought it would be really a good thing to do. Anyway, whatever. You and I both then went through the process of narrating our own audiobooks, and there is no way I would do it anymore because it's like seriously hard work and it almost killed me. So that goal is off the table for me, and I've got some other goals. So I really like I think it's very important to set goals, but then important also to reassess your goals and take that step back. Like, so often we just get so mired, you know, like proofing stuff and little things, just taking a step back and going, okay, what do I actually want here? And then refocusing. You know, I think everyone should be doing that for the next half of the year. What do you think, Orna? Are you doing that, or are you stuck in the weeds?
No, I am not so much stuck in the weeds, but I am in both, isn't it? There's a sort of, you have to get skilled at both. There's every so often there's a telescopic view is needed. So now if I looked at the big picture, I'd miss lots. But generally speaking, I think what you're saying is just so important. And I think, you know, we are always talking about bringing out the next book and how important it is to have, but it's equally important. And this is why it's a very demanding job, it is equally important to go back and make sure that the book you did the last time, or the one you did before that, is actually, you know, working. That you're not, as you're talking about there, the whole idea of the funnel and how we lead our readers through with myself, my own work, and how I'm doing that either on my website or on my books. And I'm due a sort of reevaluation as soon as I have this book off my desk. So what's coming for me next is actually not a book, but it's probably a good month of getting everything tidied up and making sure, because I've changed in the last even 6 months in terms of what I know about what I'm doing, because I think that's what a writer is doing. You're kind of learning by doing, but you're also growing by doing. So every so often, that reassessment that you're talking about, Joanna, it's not sort of an add-on, it's key to success. Absolutely key.
Fantastic. So we are done. I think we'll leave it there. That was a nice way to end. So we'll be back at the end of July. Please submit your questions on the Alliance page, and we would love to answer them. So thanks for your time, Orna. And I guess we're done, unless you have any closing remarks.
Nope. Just to say, have a great writing month. Have a great publishing month. Write lots of them.
Yeah.
See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.